You remember the headlines, right? The massive data breach at Equifax, or how about the Volkswagen emissions scandal? Those things weren't just a string of bad luck. Nope, they were failures of a super complex and honestly often invisible machine that's designed to stop disasters before they happen. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that machine and get into how companies really survive.
So what's the secret sauce? What's the one thing that keeps a company from just imploding? It's not just about turning a profit. It's about building a fortress against this constant barrage of threats that are coming from literally every direction. One wrong move, and the whole thing could come tumbling down.
Just think about it. You've got a hacker, right? A skilled one, who gets past a company's defenses. They're not just stealing data. They could be changing critical information, just causing absolute chaos from the outside. That's the kind of thing that keeps CEOs staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. And then you've got threats coming from the very top. Remember that Fat Leonard scandal? This defense contractor was bribing high-level U.S. Navy officials with cash, wild parties, you name it, all for classified info. That is a textbook case of corruption starting right in the executive suite.
And of course, there are the inside jobs. You've got the clerk who seems totally loyal, but is secretly funneling company money into their own account. How? By creating a fake vendor and just paying themselves. It's a classic for a reason, and it happens way more than you'd think.
And let's not forget the huge curveballs the world can just throw at you. A sudden pandemic, a stock market crash, or maybe interest rate spike and that dream project you were working on becomes a total financial nightmare. These are those big external shocks that can really test the strength of even the best-run companies out there.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to do a deep dive into this hidden world of corporate survival. We'll start by looking at the dangerous world of corporate risk. Then, we'll uncover the secrets of what good governance actually looks like. And finally, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the control framework, figure out who's in charge, and most importantly, why any of this really matters.
So, let's talk about risk. It's a word we throw around all the time, but what does it really mean for a company? Well, it's not just about taking a gamble on some new product. It's about having this constant 360-degree radar on, scanning for absolutely anything and everything that could possibly go wrong.
Here's a way to think about it. Imagine you're walking a tightrope. On one side, you've got the awesome feeling of getting to your goal. On the other, well, there's the pretty terrifying thought of falling. Good risk management is all about balancing those two things. You can't just get rid of the risk of falling, but you can, use a safety net to make sure the consequences aren't so bad if you do.
So, you've identified all the things that could go wrong. Now what? You can't just sit back, cross your fingers, and hope for the best. You need a plan, a master plan, really. And that, right there, is where corporate governance comes into play. It's the blueprint for building a company that can actually last.
Okay, so in plain English, what is that? Corporate governance is basically the rule book a company agrees to play by. It's like its constitution. And its main job is just to make sure that everyone from the CEO all the way down to the person who just started yesterday is pulling in the same direction and protecting everyone who has a stake in the company.
And here's the thing. Stakeholders isn't just some boring business term. We're talking about real people with real lives. Your employees, your suppliers, the customers who depend on your products. And if you ignore them, man, you are playing with fire. Just ask any company that's faced boycotts or lawsuits for putting profits over people.
All right, so we've got the big picture, the master plan. Now let's zoom in a bit and look at the details. How do you actually put good governance into practice, day to day? That's where the control framework comes in. It's the toolbox every company needs to build itself a safer future.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Internal control sounds incredibly boring, like something straight out of an accounting textbook. But trust me, this is the secret weapon that separates the companies that thrive from the ones that don't. And the key phrase here is reasonable assurance. It's not about being perfect, it's about having a smart, resilient system in place.
So how do you build one of these world-class internal control systems? Well, the good news is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a tried-and-true model that companies use all over the world. It's called the COSO framework. And this cube you see here, this is the gold standard.
The best way to think about the COSO framework is like a Rubik's Cube. Each side is a different part of internal control, and the goal is to get them all lined up. The top face shows us the three main goals: making sure the company is running efficiently, that its financial reports are actually telling the truth, and that it's following all the laws and rules. Now, check this out.
To understand the front of the cube, there are 5 key parts, and you can remember them with a really simple, kind of mischievous little acronym, CRIME. Don't worry, we're not talking about breaking the law. It's just an easy way to remember the 5 ingredients for a rock-solid internal control system.
Okay, so we've got the framework, we've got the components, but who's actually in charge of all this? Who makes sure it works? Is it the CEO? The board? The auditors? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. It's everyone.
Seriously, it's kind of like a symphony orchestra. Every musician has their own specific part to play, but they all have to work together perfectly to make beautiful music. The exact same thing is true for internal control. Everyone, from the top of the boardroom to the mailroom, plays a part in creating a culture of honesty and accountability.
So we've gone pretty deep into the nitty-gritty details of how companies stay afloat. But what's the big takeaway here? Why does all this stuff really matter? Well, it's about so much more than just avoiding scandals and lawsuits. It's about building a better, stronger future.
I think this really sums it up perfectly. A strong immune system doesn't just keep you from getting sick, right? It also gives you the energy and strength to go out and live your life. And it's the same for internal control. A strong system doesn't just protect a company from disaster, it gives it the confidence and the strength it needs to take smart risks, to innovate, and to grow.
So after all that, what's the fatal flaw? If these great systems exist, why do we still see these massive corporate meltdowns? It's not because there aren't enough rules. It's not a lack of technology. It's us. It's the human element. It's the greed, the arrogance, the blind spots that can take down even the most sophisticated systems. And that, I think, is a really humbling thought to end on.